Awesome. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Joe Teplow, lucky board member and co-founder of goodtoday.org. And today I am so excited and honored to have with us a dear friend of the organization, Jeffrey Solomon, CEO and chairman of Cowen Incorporated. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us and making the time today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Where are you joining today from? I see it's pretty sunny.
I'm at home, like so many of us, working out of Westchester, New York. So I've been here, pretty much since the beginning of March, safely, thank God. And doing my thing, as we all are at Cowen. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to dig into to how you do that as a company. So welcome to our series called Generosity at Work, where we are discussing and delving into how in the workplace we can conduct ourselves with generosity, what our responsibility is in that regard, and learn from leaders like yourself who have made that a priority in their careers. So I want to start off, I did some research before the call, and it looks like empathy is one of the core values at Cowen. I want to ask, has that always been the case? What was the origin of that value? And then what does it mean to you?
So there are four core values at Cowen: vision, empathy, sustainability, and tenacious teamwork. We call it VEST. But those are really organic values that I think were exhibited by Cowen employees before I got there. So quick background, I started a firm called Ramius, which is an investment management firm, in 1994. In 2009, we merged with Cowen and took control. Cowen's a public company. So I got to know a lot of the people at Cowen, but I've only been there for like a decade. Cowen is 100 years old. So talk about survivability and sustainability. Like any organization that makes it 100 years is pretty remarkable. But I've only been there for the last decade. So, a lot of the values that I saw or that we ascribed to were there at Cowen, and they were there at Ramius too. So, empathy was one of the core values I saw. I saw people doing things for other people because it was the right thing to do, or because it made them feel good, or because they understood inherently that if they did something nice for somebody, they got psychic joy out of it. So I gave it a label. I mean, we weren't talking about empathy before, 2010, but certainly in 2010, we started talking about it because I thought it was a core competency actually of the organization. Among other things, was the ability to have deep feelings for somebody else and to understand what their challenges are and try to figure out how to help them. Again, in business or in life or whatever it is, that's pretty valuable. And so, we gave it a name. And we elevated the idea that if you act in a more empathetic manner, good things will happen to you and your family and the rest of the organization. And that's happened. We've made great progress as an organization over the last decade.
Beautiful. Do you have a story or an anecdote or an act of empathy that you are most proud of in your 10 years in the company?
There's so many of them. We talk about empathy as a core value, but because it's the right thing to do, and because I think if you ask the vast majority of people, do they like empathetic people? The answer is yes, they do. Like everybody does that, but I think there's a couple things. So first of all, let's start with the fact that in a business like Cowen, which is an investment bank and provides financial advice and asset management capabilities and research and sales and trading, it's pretty traditional financial services business on Wall Street. We only win when we help other people win. Let's just start with that, right? I know that people talk about Wall Street selfish and greedy, and there's plenty of people that are like that in the world, and it's probably a well-earned reputation. Certainly coming off the back of the global financial crisis, there's no question that people had a dim view of Wall Street, and with good reason. But the reality is, if you really want to build a successful organization, you have to recognize that we only win when we help others win. Central to helping others win is to understand their needs and try to walk in their shoes a bit, if you can, to listen before you speak, to figure out ways to help without direct remuneration, right? If you think about how we build long, sustainable relationships, we do it because we're helping each other, and then down the road, there's a financial transaction in there where that's a result of having built a long-term relationship, but it's not upfront. And I think those are all empathetic engagements. And I'm fond of saying at the center of every positive human engagement is empathy, right? That is 100% the case when you think about it. So, where did I learn that? I don't know, just watching the people at Cowen do what they do. And I remember the first time it sort of became aware to me, I talked to some of the members of our healthcare research team, and Cowen wasn't really winning a lot, when I got there. Had great healthcare research, great research, well-known brand, but wasn't winning as much as it should have been winning in a number of areas. We do a lot of work around biotechnology companies and biotechnology stocks. And so I asked some of the research analysts who were legendary, really, in the annals of history at Cowen and even in the biotechnology industry more broadly. I asked them, like, why are you still here? Like, you're the best at what you do. You must be getting recruited every day to go work at another firm, but you're not going. Like, why are you not going? And their answer was because they cared about the other people in sales and trading in other parts of the organization. They felt helped to make their careers over a 20-year period.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, really? So you're not going because it's part of the overall team and you feel a duty and a responsibility that now that you're really successful, that you owe a lot of that success to other people who have also been in the organization for a long time. And as a result, you feel deeply connected to them. And so you're not going. And the answer is, yeah. I mean, we would like to be winning at Cowen. So everybody wants to win. But the question is, how do we get this place to win? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's unusual. I thought, because I'd been on the buy side for such a long time, I didn't realize that Wall Street firms could actually feel that way. And the reality is, they're like most other organizations where the ones that are successful have a deep sense of connectedness to one another. I'm like, that's remarkable. That's empathy. Like, you care.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about that, because that's really going to be central to how we rebuild the organization culturally. And so for a long time, all we did was talk about empathy, and vision and sustainability and tenacious teamwork came along as we thought about the other attributes that really make us successful as an organization. But it started with empathy. And it started because I heard that story from people who I just thought were immensely talented and sort of showed me something that I hadn't really contemplated before.
So that's, very special. I love how you just put it very, clearly. Empathy is at the core of every positive human interaction. I think that's, what you said. It reminds me of something that I've been thinking about, and I brought it up in a few of these conversations, and I want to get your take on this. So I have this theory, I have to name it, but it's basically that as computers take over more of our jobs, right? So as automation is increasing in the workplace, we are going to increasingly value the uniquely human qualities in the people we work with. So basically, I guess in previous generations, when you would maybe want to select the most competent people, right? The people that are the 95th percentile, right, in their job, I would rather today in my hiring, and I could be naive and I want to get your take, hire someone that's 80% as good, but someone that's more trustworthy, more generous, more creative, more, more spiritual, more empathetic. And these are things that only humans right now uniquely possess. Does that resonate with you at all? And yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just, I don't fear AI or machine learning, because most of what that helps with is the menial stuff that none of us really like to do in our daily lives. Like, we all have administrative stuff we have to do. And if you could teach bots to do those things, how much time does that open up for you to think creatively, to work on solving more difficult problems? And we talk about tenacious teamwork. It's really another word for collaboration. So one of the hallmarks at Cowen is collaboration. Our research team, for example, works across a bunch of different industries to publish things called ahead of our marquee research product is called Ahead of the Curve, and it's multi-industry, multi-research analyst focused. You have to work with others in order to come up with these ideas that are transcendent across industries. It's the same thing in other parts of our firm. We always say if we can gang tackle a problem for a client, it might come from a multitude of bankers, or if we're trying to solve a problem, for a buy side client, we have to have a team of people on that in order to help them to generate, positive alpha in their portfolios. It can't be one person. That collaboration aspect of it is uniquely human, right? The ability to create new thoughts, to be able to look ahead of the curve and to see where things are likely to go. That is a very difficult thing for bots to do. I like to say the one thing robots haven't learned how to do is collaborate with one another. They can't come up with a unique idea. They can only come up with ideas that we tell them to come up with. And not that it can't help you to anticipate. You should be using all these things to help you make better decisions. But if you can engage with one another, that's something that's uniquely human. And so, we talk about this all the time because it's at the center of our success. We create space for humans to engage with other humans around problems that seemingly are intractable. And I think it comes, and we're not the only industry to figure this out. Let's look at what's happening with the collaboration that's had to happen to come up with a vaccine for the virus, or multiple vaccines for the virus, or treatments for the virus. I look at the biotechnology industry because we do a lot of work in that. It's all about collaboration. It's all about being able to source ideas that are groundbreaking. Like, the only way you can do that is if you actually work with other humans to think about it. And that whole thing is being powered in this stage by proteomics and genomics and a bunch of software that makes it more efficient, where you can get better outcomes. But at the end of the day, the ideas have to come from humans, working together to solve intractable problems, like a vaccine, or like a therapeutic treatment for any illness, is human. And so this is the kinds of things we try to focus on at Cowen, because we recognize that's who we are. At the end of the day, we're humans, and we like, being with each other.
I couldn't agree more. I guess a question for you then is, so I had a group of high school students come to me, in my office, and I work in software. And the what I just articulated is what someone asked, Joe, when you were in our position, a few years ago, what advice would you give yourself? And I was like, it wasn't that long ago in high school, but this is what I would say. And I said that, we're going to start valuing these human qualities. So as you're going about your college career, your internships, et cetera, try and optimize for cultivating those qualities within yourself. Right. So how can I use this time to become more generous, more creative, as opposed to being the top of my class? And I think which was always encouraged in previous, generations. And so I guess my question to you is, as a company that's valuing these human qualities, how have you found the ability to how do you search for empathy? How do you filter for that in your hiring, as opposed to, because competency is much easier to filter for, right? You just have someone take some sort of test or, degree or whatever, but humanity, we haven't, maybe figured out yet. So have you done, how as a leader do you filter for that?
And so we're working on it. And we do have, I wouldn't call them personality tests. I've never been a big fan of the personality testing, but we have algorithms that we use when we're interviewing people that give us clues as to whether or not they're likely to be empathetic. One of them is just to ask straight up, give me an example of where you've gotten psychic joy out of helping somebody else to win.
Huh.
Everybody has to have helped somebody win. And give me one example of where somebody else has helped you to win something, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
I mean, if people don't have really good answers to those questions, they probably don't get the whole empathy thing that well. If they do have good answers to it, probably means that they're going to work really well in our environment. I mean, it really is. I will tell you, for me, the biggest joy I get out of my job is watching everybody else at Cowen be successful, or knowing that we were deeply involved in solving a problem for a client. We raised them capital, or we put them in touch with a partner, and then they went on and did great things for other people. No one thanks Jeff. It's fine. I'm not looking for that external affirmation. Or people do thank me, but they don't have to thank me. I feel really good about that. I feel really good that we're at the center of all of these biotechnology innovations, that we are an important member of that community. not just because of the virus, but because of, there have been 420 new drugs that have been approved in the last decade.
Wow.
We've raised, as an industry, we've raised over $200 billion of private capital for public companies to do drug discovery to help people that I'll never meet. But I know that the patients in these clinical trials and the patients who are afflicted by these awful diseases and gene malformities, like, they have no hope. And what we're doing at Cowen in that sector in particular is we're financing hope. Now, we get paid to do that, so it benefits us, and we have figured out a way to there's nothing wrong with making an economic profit. But at the end of the day, we're angling our organization to do things that better society as a whole. And that gives me greater meaning in what I do. So the psychic joy for me in being the CEO is watching my teammates win, knowing that we're helping companies and corporations go off and do great things for other people. And I can watch that happen and read about it and feel really good about coming to work every day. Really good.
Beautiful. So first of all, very practical questions to be asking, right? Just seeing, has this person put thought into this part of their life, right? About this joy that they get, even if it's spontaneous, right? If it's authentic. I guess I have to flip the question. You just gave a bit of a macro answer to it. The fact that you're helping this industry with incredible discoveries and helping so many. Is there a specific story for Jeff of a time that you helped someone else win, and what did it make you feel?
Wow. I
Not
mean,
too personal.
it happens
Interview.
multiple times a day. Yeah, it happens multiple times a day. Like, today I got a call from one of my partners. She wants me to be on a pitch at last minute because the entire board of the company is going to be there. And she's like, hey, can you dial in for 10 minutes? I had something else going on at that time, but it's really important to her. And she doesn't ask that often. And I figure if she's asking, it must be pretty important. So I asked the person I was supposed to be with at that time, can we reschedule? And I'll sit in for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, that happens multiple times a day. Like, I can't always do that, but it makes me feel good to know that, whether we win or we lose, I'm doing something for somebody else because it's important to her. And by the way, this person has done many things for me, right? I've asked her to, lean in on my relationships, and, sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but I know I can always pick up the phone and call her, and if she'll do things for me just because I asked, because I do things for her. And so, like, there's many of those things. Like, that's just one example. I mean, I think people tend to look for the really big thing. Like, what was a really big thing that happened that was driven off the back of empathy? And like, no. It's all the little things. It's like your way of being. It's like every day when you think about how many times did you help somebody today? Right? It's one of the reasons why I love Good Today. Okay. We talk about this all the time. We do well by doing good.
Yeah.
So if we do better, we can do more good.
Yeah.
Fine. So, one of the things I like about what we do with Good Today, not to pivot to that, but I think it's really important, is we're, as an organization, we're bringing philanthropy to our people. Like, one of the biggest challenges with philanthropy is that there's like a friction to getting started. It's hard. Like, you got to do the research, then you got to figure out, okay, I got to write a check, or how do I send money to this place, or whatever it is. Like, you have to do, like, it's hard to think about that. It's hard to think about doing that every day.
Yeah.
Right. You do it in chunks, or you do it on the weekend when you have time to think about it. So why don't you just make it easy for people to do a little bit of good every day, right?
Yeah.
And you feel good about that because you can. And so, what I think you've done it good today is just, long before I knew you, I was on this, hey, I want to do one good deed a day. I'm going to consciously think about doing one good deed a day. And I'm like, if I can do that, I'm going to make somebody smile, hold an elevator for somebody, call my parents, whatever. Yeah. There's all of these things that we can do every day. Just, if you take 3 minutes or 5 minutes, how much better is your day going to be when you do that? And by the way, doing good for others is doing good for you.
Yeah.
Like, this is perception people have. Like, if you do philanthropy, you have to do it till it hurts, and that's what makes it good. No. Doing philanthropy is good for you because you can feel really good about knowing that you've helped somebody or a group of people in any given moment. Like, I did good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we wanted at Cowen, one of the reasons why I love what you do, Joe, is we just want to bring that ability to all of our employees at Cowen to make it easy for them to do something good for somebody else every day and feel good about it, right? That's the secret to it, in my opinion.
Beautiful. So
Little things, the little things.
we'll pivot to that in a second. One more question on you. So, well, first of all, what you just said was very reminiscent. I had a conversation where a CEO of one of the companies on Good Today said that the first thing we do in the morning is we give, and then we can go earn. He said we flip it on its head, right? It's like the first thing we do is we give, and then we go earn so we can give the next day. And I just love that framing of like the opposite of, so many people, especially young people, I think that giving is something that comes once you have reached a certain level of success. And that's like the biggest, I think, mistake, right? Because we speak about, this all the time, that generosity is a muscle and you have to exercise it early and often, just like anything else. Before I, close with good today, I want to ask you, you speak so much about giving and you're a leader that I look up to in this regard around empathy. I don't think, while empathy might be becoming more a part of business, I do not think it's as essential as it is to the way you conduct yourself. And so I really have to ask, if it's not too personal, why? Like, where did you get this? Is there someone in your life, a mentor, family members? Like, what drives Jeff to do good in this world?
I don't know. I think it probably comes with age. I can't say that when I was in my 20s, I really thought that much about it. Because I was in, I was in the wealth aggregation game, or I want more. I mean, there's a great framing that Rabbi Soloveitchik puts in one of his writings. He talks about Adam 1 and Adam 2. I now refer to them as Adam Eve 1 and Adam Eve 2. I think it needs to be gender neutral because it is gender neutral, right? This idea that Adam Eve 1 goes out and tries to get more stuff, right? And that's a really important part of your psyche, right? There's no such thing as pure altruism in the sense that you have to have accumulated something in order to do something, whatever that is, in order to give something. Then when you think about Adam Eve 2 is the way that you want people to think about everything that you've accomplished in your life, or he puts it in a little bit more morose terms, like, what are they going to say about you when you die?
Yeah.
And you have to create this balance of going out and getting more stuff, which is really important for your psyche, Adam Eve 1. And then Adam Eve 2, you have to think about that in the context of, like, am I doing it in a moral way? Am I doing it in an ethical way? Are the things that I'm doing adding positivity to the lives of others? You can find that balance. So I read this, this thesis, and it resonated with me because I'm like, wow, I really want to be selfishly thought of as somebody who had a positive impact on others. Like I think Cowen will be around long time after it's been around for 100 years. I want people to look back on the time that I'm at Cowen and say, wow, he left that in a better place and where he found it. And isn't that really what we're doing with the world, right? Isn't it really the idea of creating a better world for our children and then having them create a better world for their children? Like, isn't that really what we're doing? We're basically here for some period of time. We should be doing everything we can within reason to leave the world in a better place than where we found it. Man, if we all just kind of focused on that, how amazing would this place be? Like, that's really, at the end of the day, like, that sounds pretty logical and unassailable. I don't think there are people who, well, I think there probably are people, but I don't really know very many people, I guess, who wake up every day trying to figure out how to destroy everything. Like, that doesn't feel good. I'm not saying we do have conflicts, we have armed conflicts, and there's a bunch of reasons. But again, even when you look at those situations, somebody's trying to create a better world for themselves or the people they care about. I wish we could create peaceful resolution to that. But from my standpoint, it's just recognizing that you can balance this desire to go out and get more for yourself, but you have to be thinking long term about how you go about doing that, morally, ethically, spiritually. And if you do that, you can live a very fulfilled life. Like, and really, when all is said and done, isn't that what we're all trying to do? Like, find fulfillment for ourselves and our family members. Like, that's kind of what I think we're doing here.
Beautiful. I know I completely agree. So when I'm speaking to that Adam and Eve 2, the Jeff 2.0 here, I will close with this. So you made a decision at the beginning of the pandemic to roll out, or like maybe shortly before that. That was right actually at the beginning, to roll out Good Today. And for those who are listening who don't know what that is, it's a program where every employee at Cowen every morning wakes up, gets an email telling them about a problem in the world, and two charities addressing that issue in a different way. And basically, everyone gets to choose, where do I want to give my 25 cents? And Cowen gives the 25 cents, but it's up to the employees to allocate it. It could be breast cancer, day, and it could be one charity researching a cure, one supporting families. Everyone gets to choose. And it's pretty wild to see amidst everything going on, working from home, that around, almost a quarter of your employees every day, wake up and make their selection. How do you think that this program, this culture of giving every morning, has affected employees and the company?
Well, I think it's walking in the way. So one of the things that this year has taught a lot of us in senior leadership is something we already knew, but it's become at the forefront, and that's intentionality and authenticity. Those two things. Like, we talk about doing good, but what are we actually doing about it, right? So connecting your words with your deeds. Like, when we talk about vision, empathy, sustainability, and tenacious teamwork, they're great ideas. It's hard to argue with those. Like, right? It's, what do they say? Motherhood and apple pie. Hard to argue with those two things too. What are you doing about it though? And I think this is where a lot of times organizations and leaders, fail, is that they have these really good ideas, and then their ability to implement those ideas falls short. Good Today is just another good, authentic example of how we walk in the way at Cowen. We talk about doing better and doing good. We're having a great year at Cowen. We should do more good, and Good Today makes that easy for us. It goes beyond that, right? I think intentionality is a big thing. When we say we're doing this, we have to go do it. And to me, it's not the only thing we do. Obviously, at Cowen, we have a number of things. We established an organization called Cowen Cares, where Cowen does a matching program. Each employee has the ability to do matching. You submit it to the Cowen Cares team. That's all employee run. People, actually apply to be on the Cowen Cares determination team. We give away, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at the behest of our employees, because they have passions about where they want their dollars to spend, and we're happy to match those, because if it's important to them, it's important to us. And all I did was say, I think we can afford to do this amount of money. And then I turn it over to the people in our organization. And again, that connectedness makes them feel good about coming to Cowen. So I think, and I'll close with this, Joe, I think a lot of times people feel like there is a selfish aspect to philanthropy, and that's okay, right? The idea that doing good makes me feel good is selfish. I love feeling good, so I want to do more. At Cowen, when we do more philanthropy, it allows us to take empathy to a different level. And it says to our employees, we're not just talking about it, we're doing it. And you can do it too. And of course, with Good Today, you can do it every day, right? It doesn't have to be a really big deal. It could be a little deal every day. That makes people feel good about being at Cowen, which is selfish, because of course I want people to feel good about being at Cowen. I'm the CEO, and I want people to want to be here every day, because they can go anywhere and do what they do, for the most part. I mean, we have really talented people, and I want them to feel psyched about coming in every day. So there's an element of what we do philanthropically that not only is about intentionality and not only about authenticity, but it's selfish in the sense that it helps us to reinforce our core values. And so I want to thank you. And I'll end by saying it's super impressive what you're doing, right? You have an amazing perspective for somebody your age. You probably hear this all the time. You don't need this affirmation from me. It's remarkable perspective. The idea that you could take what you do and build a network around charitable giving and make it easy. Wow. Thank you. Like, that makes it easy for me to walk in the things that I want to do. Right. And so, I'm happy to be in the Good Today family. We're happy that Cowen is a vital part of that. And I would encourage, everybody, this is so easy, to do, and it's a no-brainer.
Jeff, thank you so much. I don't do it alone. I have a remarkable team at Good Today. So thank you to the team. Thank you to the Cowen team for being a part of this as well. And at Good Today, it's small amounts add up. So we're all about the power of the collective. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Jeff, continue to walk in the way. You should be blessed to do it a million times over. And thank you so much for the time.